All right. Well, let's hop into it. So let me see if I can get this pronunciation. Joe Cosenza, correct?
Perfect.
Perfect. All right. So Joe is a weightlifting coach. I think we started following each other on Instagram. I make lots of my weightlifting friends through Instagram. So we've chatted back and forth online a little bit, but figured I want to get you on here and chat a little bit and talk about kind of your philosophy to weightlifting and training.
Awesome.
So go ahead and start us off. Give us a little bit about your background. So how did you kind of get into weightlifting and where are you at today?
All the credit for me getting into weightlifting goes to my brother. Um, he's 4 years older than me, and we kind of like were inseparable as far as hanging out when we were younger and very competitive with one another. So all of the weightlifting and sports and athleticism that I have is due to him. Um, so I got into it probably when I was 12 years old, just lifting weights in the basement with him because he was a little older, did it for football, and sort of followed his lead. Anything that he did, I wanted to do also. Um, and he got into competitive weightlifting after he graduated in college, probably around 08, 09. So that's when I started doing it, and horribly. There was no real resources in 08, 09. He was my only resource, and it wasn't a great resource in reality. But definitely the one who got me started. Just working on overhead squats, working on squatting a little deeper, um, power cleans, and just being in the gym regularly. So definitely got started more because of him. And he's still out, and now he's in Indiana. I think you're out in Indiana too. I think we were
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yep.
Um, and he had a gym out in Ohio for a little while. But yeah, I got into it 08, 09, graduated college, didn't really have a place to do weightlifting specifically, or at least I couldn't find one. So I gravitated more towards CrossFit. And after a few years of doing CrossFit stuff, I didn't want to really improve my conditioning anymore. I wanted to get stronger because that was the only thing that was keeping me from keeping up with my friends at the time, whereas they were
Mhm.
like head and shoulders above me on strength. And my conditioning was good, but only if it was body weights or lightweight workouts. Other than that, I was going to get blown away. And uh, competitive CrossFit to me, like at the time, was really cool. And I've totally changed my opinion about it. And it's mainly because I think right now the space is the competitive CrossFit just gets a little crazy, and I can't keep up with that. Even at the in 2011 or 12, we did the first open that we
Mhm.
ever did in 11 or 12, and I quickly realized I was never going anywhere with that, like
Mhm.
ever. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm dead last in this competition that is only going to get way more difficult.
Yeah.
And I realized that like almost immediately. I was like, this is really hard sport. Like there's way too many things I have to be exceptional at to excel. And I'm never gonna have the amount of time to actually dedicate to it that
Mhm.
will get me there. Because I worked at a restaurant full time. I was 70 plus hours at a restaurant, going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. There was no way I was gonna be Mr. CrossFit without hurting myself in the worst way. So I gravitated towards more weightlifting stuff in 2012 and didn't have a coach. Did it out of my garage. Had YouTube videos. California Strength was really big back in those days.
Mhm.
Bergener YouTube videos were really big back in those days. Catalyst was getting started back in those days, and those were like the three main resources on YouTube because there wasn't a ton.
Yep.
Now it's so expansive. Like everybody has a weightlifting YouTube channel now.
Mhm.
so so that's fun. Uh but yeah, the resources were a lot less back then. The gyms were a lot less back then. Like you had to find a CrossFit that had space for weightlifting and had an expertise in weightlifting. And
Yep.
those were very limited in the early 2010s. Kind of a lot more prevalent now. A
Mhm.
lot more weightlifting gyms are sprouting up. There's a lot more weightlifting teams, a lot more interest there. But yeah, that's kind of I guess, the longish version of how I got started. And then it sort of just bloomed from there. So if you've seen any of my content, I don't know if anybody watches me, probably not, but it's fine. I've poked fun at myself in my old videos and how terrible I was. So we're all terrible when we start out. I'm still terrible, but I'm slightly less terrible.
Yeah. You've had some recent success with some of your posts. I know I saw that one like box jump video you did. What does that have like
That's at a
like
500,000 views right now. which
That's
is so
insane.
surprising to me. I have no idea
Yeah.
what, like, I was ready to
Dude,
post in a group and I was like, what, how did this video do so well? Like, it's such a
yeah.
stupid video.
Dude, that's like, I know we were talking about like social media and content because I think, both of us are kind of on the same page with like trying to market our businesses like through social media and all the challenges that like come with that. And it's so wild to see like I'll do this post and I'll be like, yeah, this is it. Like this is really good. This is informational and like it's entertaining and it'll flop. And then I'll just post
100%.
some
Yeah.
like random crap and it'll like blow up.
Yeah.
So I don't know like what the algorithm is or like what I feel like it's just like a crapshoot, honestly, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, the videos that I thought were gonna do well didn't do anything. The other video that I thought was gonna do well and kind of did was the Murph one. I thought that one was gonna be
Oh
funny,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
originally when I made it, I was thinking, oh, this is kind of stupid. I don't want to post this. And I just had the same feeling with that box jump one. I was like, this is a dumb video. I don't even want to post it.
Yeah.
And then it surprises you. Like, I had no idea that it would get that much attention, but it's fun. I guess
Yeah.
whatever. It's kind of
Yeah.
fun that way.
So talk about because like social media is this weird thing, right? Where like I know like you try to put out a lot of informational content and I try to as well, but like really honestly to build like a following, like you kind of have to like play the game a little bit and use some of this like I don't want to say like clickbaity stuff, but stuff that like draws people in and like entertains people, right? So like how do you find the balance when you're creating content between like providing value and like education, actual stuff that's going to make people better weightlifters, and also at the same time like trying to grow your following and your reach.
So I'm still learning all about it because I'm not doing any crazy numbers on Instagram or anything like that. And I had a gym for the past, like, this is my ninth year in gym ownership. So I'm still sort of learning how to navigate through social media, and I watch a lot of videos, watch a lot of content stuff, try to figure out what works for other people and
Hmm.
what I would do with that as far as my style goes. So I'm not really playing the game as well as some others, obviously, but I think my main objective is to educate first and put out something that's somewhat entertaining, and a really good way to find out if your video is going to be really funny or go somewhere. I have a 5-year-old son, and if he laughs at the video, I think it might do well.
There we go.
And he asked me about that box jump video all the time, so I knew that one was
Yeah.
going to win.
So that just gives you some insight into the mindset of the average Instagram user is it
Yeah.
aligns with a 5-year-old child.
Yeah, pretty much. So if he likes it and laughs
Yeah.
and wants to see it again, then I know I did okay.
Yeah.
But if he goes, no, no, bring back the box jump one, then I know that video is not going to do so well,
Gotcha.
which is
Gotcha.
99% of my content.
Yeah. So you said so you own the gym that you're at, right? I
Yeah.
thought you were it looked I mean I guess I didn't really know, but I kind of assumed you were like in a CrossFit gym or something like that. Do you own a CrossFit gym? Is it a weightlifting specific gym? Like what's
So
that like?
we are no longer affiliated with CrossFit. We were for the first 5 years, and then we dropped it 2 or 3 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, we are a strength and conditioning facility that offers personal training, nutrition, and small group and weightlifting, obviously. So we emphasize in Olympic weightlifting because that's what I like to do.
Hmm.
So I'm big on teaching people how to lift properly and not hurt themselves. And like for me, that was the basis of most CrossFit gyms like 5, 7 years ago. And now I think if you're gonna be a CrossFit, you have to push a CrossFit competition because there's no discernible difference between a strength and conditioning facility and CrossFit at this point.
Hmm.
10 years ago, CrossFit was this different thing. It was a strength and conditioning gym that offered bumper plates and ability to drop weights and a new form of fitness. Not really a new form of fitness, but sort of a new take on it,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
when I was growing up, we did all the same stuff, but not
Yep.
as strictly, I guess, and not under the watchful eye of as many coaches. Like I did it with my brother. We did deadlifts, we ran around, did more deadlifts. We did try to do muscle ups, we did all this other stuff, but we didn't call it CrossFit. We just worked out.
Right.
And then CrossFit made it more, I guess, globally or welcoming to the everyday person.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my brother and I were just trying to do it to improve our sports performance. We were trying to be better at football, trying to be better at wrestling, trying to be better. I think he played rugby. Like, so we were just trying to improve our sports performance, not necessarily uh get a good fun workout in the gym. We were trying to actively become better athletes, which inevitably just turned us into better coaches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't anything that was different. It was just a different environment. And that, I think, drew a lot of people over because you're not in a commercial space gym anymore with iron plates and banging stuff around. Now you're in a wide open space with a coach and there's music blasting and it's kind of fun for people who are looking for that next level, which is
Mm-hmm.
what we were looking for at the time. Then it sort of evolved, right? Because CrossFit competition blew up around 15 to 18. It was like really huge. It's still big, obviously. CrossFit's major.
It kind
And
of
it's,
peaked though. It kind of
yeah, it
peaked
like
around
peaked
that
in
like
those years, right?
2016 time, and then yeah, it kind of has tapered off a bit. I feel like.
And now since 2020, it's just become like it got really weird. So for me, if you're a CrossFit gym, you have to push CrossFit competition. Otherwise,
Mm,
there's really no difference between you and any other strength and conditioning facility now.
yeah.
Like my difference being I don't push CrossFit competition and I never did because I didn't like it. And as I was saying before, like I immediately knew I was never going to excel in that sport
Mm-hmm.
because it was way too overwhelming. And with my schedule and work life, fitness life, it just wasn't going to work. So I'd rather focus on one thing, strength building and weightlifting, because it was one, something I had a little bit of a background on. Two, I enjoyed it more. And three, it was what I lacked the most.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I was never going to peak my strength by continuing to do CrossFit, or at least not the way I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we don't push CrossFit as a competitive sport. I push health and wellness. And the people that we work with primarily are like our target demographic is basically I would say 40 to 60 years old, depending on the program that we're running. So we're in that age range. And those people are just looking for a good workout, looking to learn how to lift properly. They're not
Yep.
looking to compete. And I don't want them to because they're probably going to hurt themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to avoid. Like the whole CrossFit competition space, it's not structured enough for me. And it's too random. And the standards aren't like they aren't standard across the board. They're standard for that specific competition, which
Mm-hmm.
makes it harder to judge and excel in the sport to me. Whereas weightlifting, I understand it's snatches and clean and jerks. If you can lock your elbows out, that's a very big plus
Eh,
one.
but yeah, but even so, like weightlifting, I mean
The
it's
press out
really
rule is a little bit more subjective.
yeah, it's interesting seeing at some of these like international meets where you'd expect the judging to be like consistent, the like wild inconsistency you see in like press calls and stuff like that. But yeah, did you see the thing like in regards to what you're saying with the semifinals workout for CrossFit with like the box step
Box
ups?
step ups, yeah.
Yeah, where people are just getting like annihilated and they didn't even realize this like standard was in there. So yeah, that is something with CrossFit where it's like I feel like a lot of the movements are pretty hard to like standardize, and I think overall they do a pretty good job of it. But there is some like inconsistency there in terms of like the competition.
The biggest issue I see with that is you set up a competition that's really difficult to judge because you're not giving the workouts out with enough time for people to figure out what the best way to do them is. It's
Hmm.
like, here's the workout. I need your video tomorrow. Good luck. And they're
Hmm.
being judged by a person in the gym who may or may not be super involved in CrossFit judging, even though they passed their judges course. That doesn't necessarily make them super qualified.
Hmm.
Second, they're judging their friend who, like, why would I no rep you? Like,
Right, right.
no, you're doing great. Keep going.
Hmm.
And third, they're making it really difficult to judge pre-recorded workouts because the space constraints for some people, the standards and the video angle that might be necessary to see it, really difficult. Like if you have to have handstand push-ups, shuttle runs, and a box step up with dumbbells, you're going to have to set that up in a very specific way to actually be able to judge it from a video,
Right,
which is
right.
borderline impossible. So that's the craziness of doing it that way. They do as good a job as they can.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily a bad job, it's just within their specifications, It's
Yeah.
as good as it's gonna get.
The like constraints of like what they have to work with. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's borderline. It's impossible to really judge it. So if you don't have in-person
Mm,
events or competitions with very specific laid out standards that all of the judges are on the same page about, it's going to be chaos as it is.
yeah. 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 Well, again, like you said, I think they're doing the best with what they have.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't imagine honestly like trying to like design and prescribe like CrossFit workouts for like, for the games level athletes. But let's talk more about weightlifting. So I'm curious to know um your philosophy in terms of like programming and how you structure that for your different athletes. So let's start with the scenario where you've got someone that's coming in to the gym. They're interested in doing weightlifting, no experience, right? What does that process look like for you? So kind of like the onboarding process and getting them their first program. What does that look like?
So we do kind of like a blanket program, which means that I'll have a general focus for the week and for the month, depending on which competition that we're headed to. Now, everybody's in a different competition cycle. So if someone walks in the gym and they have zero experience, I make them do our general fitness program first, unless they really want to do weightlifting. Like for
Mm,
me, weightlifting, I put a lot of emotional time and a lot of physical time into that. You have to earn my time.
mm,
And you're going to have to do, typically we'll do 3 to 6 one-on-one sessions with someone who's just starting,
mm,
but you have to be able to make the times that I am coaching, and you have to work at it on your own
mm,
at certain times because it's such a specialty program here that I don't want to work with everybody I can. I only want to work with certain people who are really looking to compete and excel in the sport
mm,
and who I get along with, honestly. So I have to sort of we have to sort of develop a relationship because it's not like, oh yes, you paid me this money, good. We'll do 4 days a week program. I'll get you from here to there.
mm,
I'll get you from here to there, but you got to work at it. Like I'm not here just for everybody. I don't like doing that. I've done that in the past where it's like, oh yeah, I'm excited. You want to learn about weightlifting? That's great, but it's really time consuming. It's travel. It's expensive for the travel. And if I'm going to
mm,
dedicate my time to you, you have to dedicate and show me that you're worth it.
mm, mm,
So if someone just comes in, I will probably force them to do the fitness program for a little while just to get a base because we do include some of those movements, and I want them to actually improve their athleticism. And if they show me a lot more that they're ready to compete and that they're interested in that, then I'll bring them over to a session and work with them a little bit more one-on-one. Then
mm,
set them up for um, competition setting, how to compete, and from there we develop a relationship. So most of the people that are on my team um, will show up at a certain time of the day. We'll have a blanket program, but I will change it for specifics depending on the day and who I'm working with. We have
mm,
8 people in the um, training at one time. There could be 8 different versions of the snatch going on,
mm,
but we're snatching on like say Monday. Then Tuesday maybe we're working on jerks, and maybe we're working on pulls. Depends. Like different. We have different levels: nationals, masters, and
mm,
like teens.
mm.
So it really just depends on the person, on how I'm gonna operate with them, and I develop my own little language with everybody.
Yeah. I respect that a lot. And I like also find myself kind of moving in that direction as well when you're talking about like not just opening up to everyone, right? Like finding the person that wants to be there and that is like gonna put in the work. Because I've done the same thing where it's like I'll anyone that's like has any interest in weightlifting, be like, yeah, bring them on board. And then either they don't do the work, they're just like not willing to, be uncomfortable, or whatever it is. And like, it just doesn't end up working out. And that's not great for either of us because I'm the same way as you. My time is very valuable and important to me. And if you come on board with me, I'm going to be like 100% all in that I'm going to try to help you get to where you want to be. Um, so I do try to look for people that are more like bought into the process. And I like what you're saying about like kind of making them have some skin in the game, right? And kind of like earn their way into being able to compete.
Yeah, it like I've done it every which way, and this has been the most structured way that I've done it in the past 8 years. Because it
Mm-hmm.
used to be a really open process where it's like, oh, good, you like weightlifting? Cool, come lift with me at 3 o'clock. I'm gonna do some snatches and squats with
Mm-hmm.
no structure, no guidance. I kind of had a program, but like it was mostly my program that you did.
Mm-hmm.
And then tried to have a different program for every person. And I found that to be just too chaotic and not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have in my head a different program for everybody, but I don't want to write it down because it takes too much time. And if I have 30 people on my team, I don't have time to write 30 different programs specific to you, especially at like a team rate that we're all paying. Like that's just
Mm-hmm.
not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I have it all in my head. Cool. This person needs to work on this. And if I have my coaches working with them, I'll just tell them, just do this exercise with them. They need to focus on that and squats and pulls after that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I have a different program for everybody, but not written down because that would just take me too much time and I'll end up changing it anyway. Because like something
Mm-hmm.
comes up, hey, my foot hurts. Hey, I didn't sleep last night. Great. So this whole thing that I wrote is a complete waste of my time. I should have never did it. Awesome. So instead of snatching today, you're just gonna
Yeah.
back squat because everything hurts. Got it. All right, cool. So just do that.
Mm. So yeah, so auto regulation, right? Or
Yeah,
like changing, adjusting, being reactive to like how athletes are responding. So
yeah.
do you do any like online training, like remote coaching, or is it
Remote.
all
Yeah, I
in
have a
person?
very small remote group because that's really time consuming as well.
Right.
And I'm just sort of developing a little bit and the same thing. I don't take on everybody. I take on maybe one other person a month, if that,
Yeah.
because I have my core 5 people that I work with and I'm happy with them. They're happy with their progress. They're happy with the amount of attention they're getting, and I'm happy with the amount of attention I could give them. For
Right.
me to add another person just to onboard them, it's a whole process. All right, send me 20,000 videos the first week so I can look at what you're doing and give you feedback. I'll send you video feedback coming the first week, and then we'll keep readjusting the program how I feel because I need to get to know you a little bit.
Yep.
So we need to hop on calls more regularly. Like the whole first 3 months for me with someone new is very hands on. It's a lot. It's a lot of work.
Hmm.
Once we get past those first 12 weeks, it starts to become a little bit more hands off, and it's like, all right, cool. I'll talk to you next month. Send me videos, and I'll give you feedback. But the first three
Hmm.
months is me reviewing their lifting, going over what I would do better and how to improve in my way,
Hmm.
not necessarily everybody else's way. Not everybody might agree with the way I do it, but I need you to lift a certain way. And in order to do that, we need to spend a lot of time on the phone, on videos, just
Hmm.
going over what you're doing and how we can keep improving it. Because I'm not in person, you're not getting hands-on feedback, you're getting after the fact feedback most of the time.
Hmm.
And it's a lot more difficult to make those adjustments without me pushing you in the right direction physically. So remote is maybe my fourth service that I might offer to a handful of people.
Hmm. So
Definitely not my main.
do you do any you don't do any like virtual training with like your remote athletes or like through Zoom or anything like that?
No, because they all have different schedules, like who's at 6 a.m., who's at 4 p.m., who's at 5 p.m. Like they can't make it. And
Yeah.
most of the people that I'm remote with are like 40 minutes away. So they'll make it in once or
Okay.
twice a month. So I'm not
Gotcha.
dealing with anybody in California. I'm dealing with mostly people in the tri-state area who just don't have a home and like working with one coach and one voice.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I so like most of what I do is actually remote. I'm actually like starting to build. I mean, I moved here to Indiana at the beginning of the year, and like I've had a number of like local athletes reach out to me. So we're starting to kind of like grow the local presence here. But most of my athletes are like kind of all over the place, and so most of what I do is remote, and that's something I've tried to like incorporate into my programs is that like in-person training or like virtual training. We'll
Yeah.
basically set up like a Zoom call and they'll be able to get immediate feedback because I think that is so valuable, right?
Yeah. And it's tough though, because you have to coordinate with everybody on their
Exactly.
schedule and on a video, and it's a lot.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was I lucked out though that like a lot of my athletes we do these virtual team trainings on Friday. and it's like a Zoom call where like everyone can kind of log on, and like we were able to have like a number of athletes that were able to kind of make that time block and log in at the same time. And it's a really cool thing when they're able to do that, to have like all these people from all over the place kind of train together virtually. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's awesome.
the remote thing, it comes with its own like difficulties as well. So
Yeah,
well,
it's tough to like build that out too. But like if that's the your main focus and you or not main focus, but if you're primarily coaching people online, it becomes a lot easier to build out because you can get more reps in and
yeah,
figure out what's working, figure out what's not. Like my main focus is in person, so
yeah,
that's like for a select handful special people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to build that out, but like in a much slower pace because I don't want to like rush it and just try to grab as many people because it'll
Hmm.
just mess me up and overwhelm me. And then that's no good either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this. When you when you open the gym, when you design your like online training, do you put any thought into what it's going to look like for you in terms of like the time commitment, like the level of stress, and like what your life is going to look like corresponding to that, to like each of those? Does that
For
make
online,
sense?
for remote,
I mean, for both. So I guess what I'm asking is like when I went about designing my like online coaching, I actually invested in this like consulting company, and they did a really good job of saying, "Hey, make sure that like when you design your business, you design it around the life you want to live, right? Because if you don't, then the life you want to live is going to get adjusted based around your business, right? Your business is going to take over, and then you're going to have no life. You're going to get burnt out, and you're not going to be able to help people in the way that you want to." So they were really good with helping me be intentional about like respecting my own time, respecting the things I wanted to do, and building the business kind of around those things. So I guess what I'm asking is like, was that something that was in your mind when you were like opening up the gym or like designing your coaching?
when we open the gym, no.
Yeah.
Now, more so, yes.
Yeah.
Um, so when we opened the gym, we had zero idea of what we were doing. Like I lived in Brooklyn and the
Hmm.
gym is in New Jersey. And I did not live in New Jersey at the time. So that was really dumb.
Hmm.
Don't recommend that. We also spent all of our money on building out the gym and had maybe a few $100s left for marketing.
Mm.
I also don't recommend that. That was dumb. Don't do that. Then we sort of both of us, my partner and I at the time, like he's no longer my partner, but we had no business background. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, and we really had no business opening a business.
Mm.
So we kind of got lucky with some sort of marketing agency and kind of got our start there. And I was not intentional about my time at all. I was just like, let's open. I'll take whoever the fuck walks in this door and I will do something with them. I don't even care. Just pay me some amount of money and we'll work out. It'll be great.
Yeah.
It was not great. That's also dumb. Don't do that. So now I have a little bit more of a plan. My mind still wanders though. I still do get overwhelmed with things at time because that is the way I am. But the way I structure my remote athletes, I will meet with them once a week or once a month on as a call just to check in.
Hmm.
They're supposed to send me videos every week or check in with me every week just to say how it's going. And then from there, just set the plan for the week or the month and see what we're feeling like. We just finished the training block, which finished with the competition a month ago.
Hmm.
The last 4 weeks have been sort of general, just strength building for across the board for everybody. And
Hmm.
we're moving into nationals. So those athletes are on a different plan because they're peaking for next week and the week after.
Right.
And then when they come home, it'll just be basically a blanket program. And we'll just work on stuff for another month or so, depending on where everybody goes. Like I have to sit down with everybody, say, what do you think went well? What do you want to work on?
Hmm.
This is what the plan is. And that's super time consuming.
Yep.
But I've been getting better with it with my athletes, just sitting down with them a little bit more. But with them, it's a little bit more lax because I'm with them all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas the group athletes who are on general fitness, general programming for like our strength and conditioning side, I sit down with them once every 90 days just
Mm,
to map out a plan. But I don't get to work with them as closely. So
right,
it's more important for me to sit down with those guys than it is with my team because I'm with my team 4 or 5 times a week for 20 hours a week. So,
right, right.
but I do talk to them, but in not as, I guess, an intimate setting.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's all structured around like my work days. So it's not like I have to hop on a call at 9 o'clock at night just to talk to somebody.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
How many athletes do you have on your like weight on the weightlifting side?
Think it's like 35, maybe 40,
Okay.
but like they compete irregularly.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's I think a core 15 to 20 that are competing regularly. We have set schedule timeline. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other ones are just either just get dabbling in or they've had breaks and they need a moment to collect themselves. You know
Mm-hmm.
how emotional this sport can get.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
think
Well,
it's probably
that's
close to 30, 40 athletes. And
yeah,
then we're
that's
at
a
the whole gym's in the hundreds somewhere. So we're a smaller facility.
nice. That's great though. I mean, that's a good solid sized team. And then you said you've got multiple people going to nationals?
Yeah, we have two youth one youth athlete lifts on the 16th. So
Mm,
I'll be out there for the 16th, and then we have one under 25 going on that Wednesday. And then we were supposed to have two going for seniors, but only one's dropping out, I think.
mm.
So three.
Injury or just
Yeah, she got the
not?
same thing that I have. I have like a hip thing that like it just
Uh,
flares up. I
yeah.
got it from her. She must have given it to me.
It's contagious.
Yeah, it's a contagious hip bursitis.
Yeah.
That new virus going out.
Do you have the jump sign if you palpate your trochanter? Do you have like pinpoint pain there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And it hurts kind of like halfway midway through the squat as you're coming up.
Yeah, like right before the bottom and then right as you're changing direction.
Yeah. 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 And it's just like sharp pain right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Lateral hip pain. I've also dealt with that. It is a bitch.
I've been dealing with it for the past like 15 years. So it's like it
Really.
comes and goes.
Yeah.
And it always happens when I add in volume on my back squat because I think I'm Superman again.
Yep.
And I forget that, no, dummy, that's why we front squat all the time because back squatting hurts.
Yeah.
Oh, now I remember.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for me it was the same thing. It tended to be like well, so, as a PT like working with athletes who are like in pain, most of the things that we deal with tend to be like load mismanagement, right?
Yeah.
So like you're doing something in training that is exceeding your capacity to adapt,
Yep.
right? And it's usually as simple as that. Like, and it honestly, like the training load can be similar to what you've done in the past, but maybe you're dealing with like life stresses, or you're not sleeping well, or not feeling yourself well, and that can bring down your capacity to adapt, right? And make a training load that was previously tolerable no longer tolerable. So, I was the same way when I was dealing with like the hip thing, is just adjusting training load, bringing down the squats to kind of allow it to kind of chill out, and then slowly building back up in a way that didn't piss it off and didn't tick it off. So,
Yeah. I've been squatting slightly less.
mhm,
I did squat on, I want to say it was Monday, and that didn't go well. So it kind of flared up again.
mm,
And then it's hard not to squat because that's kind of like the only thing I want to do.
yeah,
So like I'll snatch. I did power snatches from the blocks the other day. Then I did power cleans and like even that stuff, I have to take it from the blocks, otherwise just pushing off the floor kind of bothers it.
mhm,
But I'm
yep,
stubborn and I'll just do it anyway. And then it just prolongs the pain,
yep,
which I know is stupid because the only way it's actually gotten better, like in the last 8 years, this has happened at least 4 or 5 times.
mhm,
And the only way it's really gotten better is by me just not doing anything.
mm,
But I can't not do anything. So the two times that I got, the other 2 times that I actually did do nothing, my daughter was born and my son was born.
ah,
And then my leg was fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you have to be careful with that, right? Like if you completely deload, you completely lose, like you decondition your tissues, right?
Yeah.
And then it's what you risk is like, oh, you start to feel better and you kind of try to jump back into like where you were. And that can also be provocative. So I always try to find ways to like keep people training and keep them moving. Like you're saying, if you can do like block power snatches, for example, right, and do those at like a moderate intensity and they feel okay, like I would rather have someone doing that and doing maybe different variations of squatting, box squatting or something than like completely taking off and just not training.
Yeah. No, the problem with me and like everyone else is that I take those power snatches and then I start maxing it out.
Yep.
So what's
Yep.
exactly what I did on Monday. Then I
Yep.
went and bench pressed a max, deadlifted. Deadlifting actually feels okay, but
Yeah.
a certain way. Like I can
Like higher
deadlift
hip.
kind of, yeah. So if I RDL, it feels a lot better
Yeah.
because then I'm sort of stretching everything out back there.
Yeah.
And then I find that I shift over to that side, and that's really why I'm just abusing the shit out of it. And
Yeah.
that's why it gets all angry at me. So I need to start going the other way a little bit, but it's very difficult to redo that, reposition it, because it's a very slight difference.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything I just told you about like being smart and like managing load and everything.
I
I
don't I throw that right out the
Yeah.
window.
Yeah. When it comes to me, it's like nope.
You be smart, I'll be the dumb one.
Oh yeah. 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 I tell my athletes and like people I work with, I'm like, I have been dumb and made every mistake that I possibly can so that you don't have to, right? So I can learn what not to do so I can learn to help you better.
Yes. And then they go, yeah, that's cool and all, but we're still gonna do the dumb thing.
Yeah, yeah. You know, hey,
I'm
I'm for
exactly the
it.
same way.
I'm for it sometimes, man. Like I'm for you remember Nathan Damron back in like the what was it, like 2015, 2016 era when he was doing the train stupid?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some value in that sometimes, you know, like sending it and like doing some different like fun stupid shit because it's, you know, it keeps training fun as long as you're like not actually going to hurt yourself and doing it
Yes.
like
If you're healthy, it's
within
great.
certain constraints. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. If you're healthy. Yeah. So, well, cool, man. Talk about, so I know we talked about kind of like the onboarding process and like newer athletes coming onto the team. Talk about some of your athletes that have been around a while. So the people that are kind of like at this national level and like more competitive. What does your like program design look like? Like what's the frequency? Are they training 3 days a week, 5, 6 days a week? And do you prioritize like volume, intensity, or what does that look like for you?
I was just talking about this morning with Sergey Putsov because we're having Tarakti out here in November, so I did like a
Oh
little
yeah,
podcast with him, and I
nice.
was just talking about this too because my thing is you need at least 5 years to build a solid foundation for it
Mm-hmm.
to be a good weightlifter. Like your first couple of years is going to be just you learning how to move your body, and
Mm-hmm.
like those first 2 years are a mess. Like you learn something one day, and then it's like, all right, cool, you've gotten that particular thing down. Now we need to add the next step. What do you mean? We just
Mm-hmm.
got it. Didn't I get it? Yeah, you got that one part. Now let's get the next part. And it takes years to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I've been in this sport for 13 years at this point, and I'm still learning things. So, if I'm still learning things at 13 years, your
Mm-hmm.
journey is going to be, and you're just starting at your year one, like, this is going to be a while. So, we have a few people who just started qualifying for senior nationals like last year, who've been with us for 4 or 5 years. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the point. 4 or 5 years is your point to get to national level. If you're uh, at the senior level,
Mm-hmm.
like masters, you can qualify tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But like youth, you could probably qualify tomorrow. But like
Mm-hmm.
senior level is a whole different game. You need years to get there and learn how to compete and go through that whole adolescent phase of sucking and questioning your life and why is this sport so hard when it's only two things
Mm-hmm.
and all I have to do is use my legs and I don't understand what that means. So I got tight and I threw the bar away and I don't know what any of this means. And it's all just a big blur of information. We're really just saying the same exact thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes 5 years to understand what those three things mean.
Right.
So someone just starting, they come in, we'll probably do 2 or 3 days a week just to get them acclimated, and they'll jump right into the program, and they will not do the program as written. They will do snatches and clean and jerks, a lot of technique, a lot of complexes of just, we focus on the deadlift and the
Mm,
pull, and then we go over the turnover and the squat.
mm,
So like each day I'll have some version of pulling and squatting just to get reps in and get volume in on how to do those things correctly. Because more than likely, I'm dealing with a master's athlete or an older athlete who just wants to learn about weightlifting. And
mm,
your strength is not really the issue, but your technique is terrible. So we
mm,
have to fix your technique so then we can work on your strength and continue the process.
mm,
And it's really individual. Like it's everybody's a little different. Everybody's going to come from a different background.
mm.
And if you're coming from a CrossFit background, it takes even longer because you've done so much volume in a
Yeah.
bad way that
Yep.
for me to correct you will take me another 2 years for me to fix what you've just done to yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I tried to explain that to someone who was very strong. She worked with me for literally like a month and a half
Hmm.
and was capable of qualifying for nationals. Would she have done well there? No, absolutely not. But she was capable of it. Her strength level was there, but her technique was just not good
Hmm.
because you're doing so many bad reps with CrossFit because the
Yeah.
standard is just get it from this point to this point, which
Hmm.
is fine. That I fully get that. And this will bring us back to our CrossFit conversation. But with doing that, you're teaching yourself how to do it so improperly that when we try to tighten it up, you don't understand any of it. Your body is built a certain way from doing things wrong that to
Hmm.
correct that and open you up again, oh man, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. So I'm currently working with some CrossFit athletes, but I've had one specifically in the past that I worked with, and they wanted to do weightlifting and CrossFit, right? They wanted to
No,
like
can't. You
compete in
cannot do that.
weightlifting. Well, that's what I was running into is like we worked on the technique. We worked on developing strength in the squat because a lot of CrossFitters need squatting strength, right? A lot of them can't squat where they need to be for weightlifting. So like we developed the technique. It got a lot better, but then they were also doing these metcons at the same time. And it's like we're putting all this work into improving your snatch and your clean and jerk, and then you're turning around and like you said, you're
Ruining
doing
it.
like yeah, exactly. You're just getting tons of reps of like unteaching that same thing. So it's like it's a big challenge, and I still like and enjoy working with those athletes because we were able to see really good progress. And one of the girls, I got her to qualify for finals, but yeah, like you said, it's just like a never ending battle of like trying to, I'm like, hey, you should really be trying to take this like technique and apply it into like your metcons as well.
So that brings
So,
me back to why I don't work with just everyone. And this kind of pissed me off last time when I tried. It's like if someone comes to me from another gym
mm-hmm,
and they want me to work with them in weightlifting, like you're gonna have to pay for one-on-ones. You can't come to my team practice
mm-hmm,
because you're taking up space on my platform that I'm already dedicating to someone who's given me months or years of their time that I don't want to waste my focus on you, who I'd have to spend more time just developing your technique.
mm-hmm,
So if I will push them more towards my workshops and one-on-one training,
mm-hmm,
just because like if I'm going to spend my time with you, it's got to be worth it to me. And you're more than likely not going to stick around long term because you have your friends at your CrossFit gym or the other gym that you go to. You're just looking to them for insight. And if you're just
right.
looking for insight, I do workshops, I do seminars, and I do one-on-one training, and that's what you would be better off doing.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and on top of that, they have this expectation that we're going to fix something in 30 seconds, and that's obviously not the
mm-hmm,
case.
mm-hmm,
And then when they realize how long this process is going to be and how long it's actually going to take, they sort of either go, all right, fuck it, I got to get rid of CrossFit, otherwise I'm never going to get this, or they go, I don't really need to weightlift. This is fine. I'll just go back to doing what I'm going to do. And like I said, I've put a lot of my emotional time into it as well and my
mm-hmm,
efforts. And when that happens to me over and over again, I sort of get hardened. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with you anymore. Like you're
mm-hmm.
not worth my time. I'm not. I was fine without your business before you came here, and I will be fine without it after you leave here. I
Mm-hmm.
would rather have people who want to be here, want to learn what weightlifting really is, and
For
want to
sure.
take that journey and see my perspective of it and get quality coaching than someone who's just going to walk in and be like, I kind of want to snatch better. Good.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you luck. Watch my YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go
Ye-
practice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had that same experience, but then I've also had like some of the CrossFit athletes that I worked with, and honestly, they were the ones that I'm thinking of are all gym owners. They own the CrossFit gym, right?
Yeah.
And they coach there. And those people were like, they were totally bought in, and like they did a
That's
really
a
good
different
job.
animal for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that was super rewarding for like me to work with them, and like I was bought into the process, they were bought into the process. So like that was a good experience for me. But I've also, like you said, I've experienced that same thing where it's like, yeah, you kind of hit a crossroads and it's like people realize how much work it's going to be. And either they are or aren't willing to like, put in that effort.
Yeah. So I'm in the process of coming up with a plan on how I can put together something more for the online space where it's like
Hmm.
video series like and sort of direct people to that to that program
Like a
and make it
course
yeah, more
type
like a
thing.
course. This is like
Yeah.
a 12-week course. This is what I would do. And then
Yeah.
hop on a call once a month or once a week and do
Yeah.
video review and do something like that. Like that's something I'm looking to build out, but like I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have a lot of things laid out as far as like my outlines go, but I haven't exactly executed it just yet, obviously.
Yeah. That's the thing about running a business, man, is like, man, I've got all these ideas for like the things I want to do. And it's like sometimes I can kind of get like paralysis by analysis or
Yeah. Or just overwhelmed with too many
yeah, just
shiny
like
objects.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
like where do I start and like what do I, what's the like best use of my like resources and time?
Yeah.
So, well, what's
That's
next
where
for
it's like even with like programming, it's like I only need to snatch, clean, a jerk, and pull and squat. I don't need to do any of these other weird things. I don't need to do a ton of volume. I
yeah.
just need to focus on those things and everything else will improve. And if I just focus on squatting, my strength will improve. So then when I go to pull, even better.
Hmm. Are you talking about for you specifically or for like
Yeah,
your
mainly for
athletes
me
in general?
specifically, but really for everybody. If we're doing all
Yeah.
of these things at once, we only need to work on one thing at a time. Like, really, you need to get a lot stronger, or you need to learn how to jump. Let's
Hmm.
learn how to jump and be explosive.
Hmm.
Then we can include the next thing. So,
Yeah. I mean, I would push back on that a little bit. I think like so like do you use like a block periodization style? Or do you use kind of like an undulating periodization, like a conjugate style, or like what does your program kind of look like?
so heavy days always on Saturday.
Hmm.
Snatch day is usually Monday, and we I have like a 12-week block in my head where we'll build up accordingly, but right now we're in a strength phase, so we're doing more squats and pulls
Hmm.
and less heavy singles on snatches and clean and jerks. So more
Hmm.
volume. And as we get closer to a competition, squat volume goes down, snatch volume goes down, but the weights go up.
Right.
So really just kind of not a linear progression, sort of undulating, but
Hmm. But yeah,
really,
you have that like heavy day, like you said,
yeah,
right? So even though you're in kind of like a volume or like strength block, it's still like volume day, heavy day,
yeah,
right? Like across the week. So I would still consider that like an undulating or like kind of like a conjugate
yeah.
style. Um, yeah, I've gone back and forth as a coach on my philosophy with like periodization and like specificity. I mean, I trained at Westside
I
in
saw
like
that. That looked pretty neat.
in 2017, yeah, and like Louis actually had like a big influence. Like, everything he said, I didn't fully agree with, but like, I did like the variety of exercises and including like non-specific like strength exercise into training. I do see some value in doing that. But I have also in my programming for my athletes found myself getting a little bit more specific, right? In terms of like snatch and clean and jerk variants and having it be a lot more closely related to like the classical snatch and clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like if you want to get better at snatching, you need to snatch from the floor. If you want to get better at clean jerking, you need to clean jerk from the floor, right? And we still use like different variations and stuff, but I found myself getting like a little bit more specific generally with like my training style. So
Yeah.
where do you fall on that like spectrum, like specificity versus like
I love blocks, so I use a lot of block work.
yeah, blocks are
Like
great. Yeah.
blocks are my favorite thing to use,
Yeah.
especially if we're squatting a lot. Going from the floor isn't always like ideal because your legs are definitely jacked up or tired.
Yeah.
So going from the blocks allows you to pick up the speed and drive a little bit quicker, and then it sort of helps you develop that explosive power a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll only go from the floor maybe once a week or as we get closer to competition
Hmm.
because I want block work to tighten up little things in the middle that maybe just aren't tight from the floor. So the higher the blocks further out of competition,
Yep.
lower the blocks closer we are to competition or a deficit, which is we're
Yeah.
getting close to.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
keep
Yeah. Yeah.
lowering the bar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like it seems like very simple, but it's very effective, right?
Yeah.
You work high blocks, then like maybe blocks above the knee, low blocks, and just kind of like work your way down. And you're working progressively on like each of the phases of the lift. I've run very similar cycles, and saw like really good progress with that. The issue is a lot of my athletes don't have access to blocks, depending on where they're at. So
Plates. Just set up some plates. It's blocks. Same thing.
yeah, but it's kind of pain in the ass, and potentially you're damaging the plates.
It's not your plates, probably.
Yeah, probably.
If they are your plates, then just go to Home Depot, buy a few pieces of wood, and make blocks. They're really not that complicated.
Yeah, 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 for
Build
sure,
them.
for sure.
Yeah, I have the template.
Well, any when it comes to like homemade blocks, there's two options. Your blocks can be they can be durable, but like a fucking pain in the ass to move, right? Because you have to make them like so heavy. Or if you don't make them that way, they're just gonna fall apart, right? Like
It's
most
a
sets
lot
of
of 2x4
yeah, but most sets
and
of
some
blocks that I
plywood.
see, like they're splintering and like coming apart, unless you make them like really solid.
Yeah, but even still, to fix that is really not that complicated. You just replace the wood.
Yeah,
It's
fair.
not really that like it's not an expensive piece of equipment. It's just a little
Yeah.
cumbersome, but you'll get so much value out of it. Like it'll maybe cost you $50 to build a pair of blocks with
Hmm.
depending on if you buy mats or not. And all right, maybe yeah, about $50. How much does 2x4s cost? $8 a thing. You need probably like four of them. That's
Yeah.
$32. Maybe a sheet of plywood or a half a sheet of plywood because they sell them in short ones. You can make a nice set of blocks for probably 50 to $75.
Do you crisscross the two by fours, just like cut them? And
Man, if I could show you what I do, I might have it on here.
because that's what in Nashville, that's what we had a bunch of blocks that were just two by fours, like alternating.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I'll That's it. Oh, all right. So I'd share it, but you won't let me share it as you as part of your rules on the Zoom.
Oh,
But it's there. I have a block thing. I just crisscross a
yeah.
bunch of wood.
Take your word for
Yeah, it's all
it.
good.
You can send it to me. Awesome, man. Well, what is next for you in terms of like your training and competition?
Well, my goal for the end of the year is to squat 500.
Let's go.
If my hip agrees with that, we'll find out. But last year I hit my goal at 600-pound deadlift. So
Nice.
if the squat one doesn't work out, then I'll just try and pull 640.
Okay.
So
What weight class are you?
89.
Okay.
I'm a light 89.
Yeah, same. I think I'm like 87 right now.
Yeah.
Are you
I'm old. I'm a masters though, so I get to go to the cool competitions with the old people.
I was gonna ask if you're masters or not. Do you go to
Yeah.
any of those meets?
So I went to AO finals as a masters athlete. I qualified as a senior, but I participated as a masters.
Yeah.
Went to Pan Am's Masters last year in Florida. Lost
Okay.
to Travis Cooper,
Oof.
son of a bitch.
Tough.
I think he beat me by like 40 kilos,
Yeah.
probably more.
Yeah.
Um, and that was I was competing at 80 as an 81 there.
Okay.
And that was the last time I competed as 81 because I got tired of running 2 miles before weigh-ins just to
Oh
lose
man.
a kilo. I swear to God, I was doing fine. Everything was going well. And then just got time to weigh in and I was like zero point 0.8 over. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, fuck. All right. And it was Memorial Day weekend for the Pan Ams. So
Mm.
everybody at my gym was doing Murph and I basically did Murph that day without all like the other shit.
Yeah.
So I stopped cutting and now I just eat and I'm fat and it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, generally cutting for weightlifting isn't a great idea. It works for some people, but
All
I
right, so
cut to,
there's a rule to follow for cutting.
okay.
Will you win or come in at least top five by cutting? If
Yeah.
the answer is no, you do not cut.
Yeah. Yep.
Now
That's a
the
pretty good
question
rule.
is, if is this your first or second competition? If
Oh,
the
yeah.
answer
Yeah.
is yes, you do not cut for competition.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So those are the
Yeah.
rules.
I'm like 6 foot, like 5'11" and a half. And I cut to 81 for AO1 in like 2020, I think, which was incredibly stupid because I was looking at the national numbers. I was
So
like,
you were there for the COVID year.
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay, cool. We were there for that one. That was fun. That was like the best.
yeah.
That was the best Arnold ever.
No, no.
Yes, best. 100%.
No, because
Nobody
there's
was there,
there's
and
no
we got to
convention.
walk up to every like big strong man and take pictures, and it was so very intimate with everybody. Best
Yeah,
year ever.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a lot more fun when they have like the whole convention going and
Nah,
everything.
it's too many people. I don't like
Okay, fair enough.
it. I got this 75-year-old Marcy,
Uh-huh.
and she walked up to, I told first of all, I walked her around every person and said you have to take a picture with them
Hmm.
because it's really funny when you see a really big strong man, Thor, take a
Hmm.
picture with a little old lady,
Yeah.
seasoned lady. But she didn't know anybody who they were. She had no idea who they were. And
Hmm.
I said, Marcy, go ask that guy to take a picture with you. And she goes up to Thor and she says, Thor, I think you're amazing. I would love if you could take a picture with me. And he looks around and he's like, where is that coming from? Then he looks down and he's like, oh, of course. Takes a picture
Hmm.
with it. Awesome. Best time ever.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I enjoy going to the
Convention.
convention and everything, but that was an interesting year.
Yeah. I see. I don't enjoy the convention.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I think we're about at the end of our time here.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Any kind of closing comments or remarks?
Yeah, if you're getting started in weightlifting, it is a process. So slow things down so you can feel it all and just keep at it. It gets better.
It gets better until it doesn't, right?
Yeah. No, but it still gets better because once you get to that peak of like stop caring,
Yeah.
then it's really good. I'm at that
Yeah.
peak phase. I don't care. I'm just gonna lift and have fun with it, and that's when it gets really good.
That's where I'm at as well.
Yeah.
So awesome, man. Well, thanks again. This has been a lot of fun for me. We'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right.